Today, we're going to talk about the importance of transparency in an engineering organization. Have you ever felt like you were working in a fog where everyone's busy, everyone's trying, working really hard, but somehow nothing important gets done? Well, I've been there, and the problem is not people, it's the system. And specifically, it's the lack of transparency and accountability. So let me take you a few years back. I was a tech lead at a large company working on a project that depended on another upstream engineering team. So we'd have a weekly meeting, and every week I'd ask kind of the same question, trying to keep my tone professional. Hey, Alex, any updates on that component we need from your side? And every week, Alex would say something like, yeah, I meant to, but I got pulled into something else. I'll try to get to it this week. Well, at first, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. Stuff happens, priorities shift. But then it kept happening. 2 weeks, three, four, same story, no progress, no accountability, no one stepping in. And I was boiling inside. I kept thinking, why is no one telling Alex to work on this? Why don't we have a project manager? Who's making the call on what really matters? Yes, we did technically have a roadmap, but let's be honest, people didn't actually take it seriously. If something couldn't get done, it just quickly disappeared from the plan. Deadlines slipped, commitments evaporated. Meanwhile, I had to face my boss yet again with another non update. So this frustration was eating at me. I'd sit in those meetings and darker thoughts would creep in. How did Alex even get promoted? He can't deliver anything. Why am I killing myself here when clearly no one cares? Maybe I should just take the rest of the day off. Or better yet, maybe I should just get a side gig. At least someone will pay me for work that ships. So this situation wasn't just a few bad weeks. It was, I'd say, years of my life. Years of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Years of wondering if this is just how companies worked. I'd go home exhausted, not from hard work, but from the sheer weight of this organizational dysfunction. My wife would ask me how my day was, and I'd just shrug. What was there to say? Another day, another meeting, another non update. Well, then I switched companies and everything changed. In my new company, everyone has access to clear company priorities. What we're building, why it's important, which customer requests are crucial, and who our key customers are. So everyone sees basically what the CEO and the top management sees. And engineers are empowered to make their own decisions based on this shared context, on this transparency. If someone can't deliver, they openly communicate why and offer alternatives grounded in the company's priorities. So there's no hiding or pretending, it's just reality. And that's when it hit me. So the problem at my old company wasn't Alex. He wasn't slacking off. He was just overwhelmed like the rest of us. Everyone was reacting to the noise, jumping on the latest request from the latest person that gave it to them, instead of following the signal, instead of understanding what the actual priorities are. And no one had the authority or clarity to say what actually mattered. This wasn't a communication problem, it was a trust and transparency problem. And the absence of that created a frustrating, demoralizing fog. Everyone thought they were doing the right thing, yet nothing moved forward. So that experience changed my understanding of leadership. Because here's the truth, without shared visibility and shared accountability, even the best engineers will lose direction. Polite status meetings won't save you from a broken system. And if you're a leader, as a leader, the job isn't just to set direction, it's to make the invisible visible and make sure it matters. Here's a diagram that's the idea is a common one. Yeah, it's the hidden work iceberg. So you have like a bunch of stuff above the water, which kind of everyone sees, management sees, other people in other teams see, status updates, sprint deliverables, meeting attendance. But there's a bunch of stuff underneath that is hidden. People don't really see whether engineers are overwhelmed with requests, or like waiting for someone necessarily, or if they're doing work that's duplicate of some of what someone else is doing, or if they're just slow because there's so much technical debt, right? And all these other things. So that's the basic idea. Make as much of this stuff visible. So, for example, if I'm working on my team, I have visibility in what the CEO sees, so I know that where certain issues of certain customers are high priority. Then I also have visibility into a neighboring team, and I'm seeing that that team is drowning in, urgent bugs. Well, I have that context and understand what needs to be done. If I've got extra time, I need to jump on one of those customer requests to help the neighboring team. Just an example. All right, but let's take back. Like, not everyone works in this transparent organization like ours. So, I can talk about how great my company is, Fleet Device Management, but the question is, at your current job, what can you do when you feel like you have no visibility? So, at the very first level, you need to be aligned with your manager. You need to know your manager's priorities, which means largely knowing what your manager knows. And just as a guideline, you should strive to know about 90% of what your manager knows. So, for example, if your manager is attending cross-functional meetings with other managers where priorities and goals are discussed, you need to know what's happening at those meetings, right? At least the conclusions of those meetings and the decisions reached. Here's a few ways to do that. Ideally, there would be a recording of that meeting, and you can watch it. So if they are recorded, ask if you could watch it. If they're not recorded, ask if those meetings could be recorded. Alternatively, you could read the meeting notes from those meetings if they have meeting notes. If not, maybe your company could employ one of these latest AI note takers to automatically take notes. Alternatively, if those don't work, simply ask your manager for a readout from those meetings in your weekly one-on-ones. And you definitely need to be meeting with your manager weekly. Every 2 weeks is just too far apart. Meetings get canceled, stuff comes up. You can't just like wait 2 weeks for an update. That's just too long. Once you get on the same page with your manager, try to repeat this process with your manager's manager, right? If you're not meeting regularly with your manager's manager, ask for a skip level meeting. Those meetings are called skip levels. And maybe afterwards extend the ask for a more recurring skip level meeting, right? It's probably not going to be weekly, but maybe once a month is a good goal to shoot for. So specifically, like, what do you say when you're asking for more visibility, like, especially when you're talking to like your manager's manager? So here's kind of a sample script. Hey manager, so I've been thinking how I can be more effective in my role and better support our team's goals. I'd love to have more visibility into the broader priorities and contexts that drive our work. Specifically, I'm interested in understanding the key decisions and trade-offs being discussed in cross-functional meetings, getting insight into the upcoming priorities that might affect our team's roadmap, and then learning about dependencies or blockers that other teams are facing that might impact us. Would it be possible to either get access to the recordings or notes from your meetings, or have a brief weekly sync where you share your key takeaways? I believe having this context would help me make better day-to-day decisions, spot potential issues earlier, and contribute more strategically to our team's success. So that was a sample. So obviously adjust it to your own language. All right, so key takeaways. Looking back at my journey from frustration to clarity, here's kind of the key lessons that transform how I work, right? I understand that it's not necessarily a communication problem, it's a trust and transparency problem. At my previous company, we had meetings, we had updates. What we didn't have was visibility into what actually mattered. And this absence of transparency created kind of this demoralizing fog. Everyone thought they were doing the right thing, but nothing important actually moved forward. And great engineers need visibility to thrive, right? Once you have visibility, you have kind of more ownership of your work, right? And it's kind of more motivating, right? In my old company, Alex wasn't slacking. He was just overwhelmed and reacting to the noise, because no one had clarity to say what mattered. Like, I did not have clarity. If I had clarity, well, hindsight is 2020. You definitely need to know what your manager knows, and ideally what your managers knows. Ideally, what anyone knows in the company. And if you're a leader, you must make the invisible visible, right? Your job isn't just to set direction; it's to ensure that priorities, trade-offs, blockers are explicit and public, and that anyone who desires to have this information can get it. So the fog I worked in for years wasn't inevitable. It was a broken system where politeness trumped progress. And I know it was partially my fault, because if I knew all this ahead of time, I would have tried to make the situation better. But you can build better systems. You just need to start asking for and creating transparency. That's it for today.